Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite here, and I wanted to do this video today to actually talk a little bit about a TV show that I've been watching for the past year, 2 years now, and it's to me it's probably one of the best shows out there. It's probably not going to get a lot of views right now because a lot of people are going to have a bad feeling about what they've been doing with it. Me personally, I do have some problems with it, but it's still a very entertaining and enjoyable show. Um, One of the things I want to talk about here is a show called Krypton. This show is on Sci-Fi. It is a DC property. It's actually written by David Goyer. That name should be a little bit more familiar with you. That is the gentleman who's been writing for DC comics and even DC movies and TV shows for a lot of years. Um, he also wrote Man of Steel. He helped write a little bit of Batman v Superman before he got replaced by Chris Terrio. Um, and also he did a lot of the comics too. Um, let me break it down to you. One, I really actually enjoy what they did with this show. I really, really, really do. I think that they gave us a lot of understanding about the hierarchy and the class system that Krypton has been subjugated with, and one of the main reasons why it fell. There's a lot of depth to it, and also a lot of relatability with it with this show because it's something that we see around all around ourselves all the time. We have the rich, we have the middle class, we have the poor, and we have the poorer. Um, I remember when I was younger, there was actually a upper middle class. There was a rich class. There was an upper middle class, lower middle class, and then there was the upper poor, and there was a lower poor. There was the one who was the poorest, and that upper crust that you see of people who are making good amount of money, but they're still considered a middle class or a poor class. That disintegrated, and we now just have rich, middle, and poor. So the way Krypton did it is that the people from extended houses like the House of El, the House of Za, the House of Elm, the House of Vex, these are prestigious houses. These are considered upper hierarchies. They're considered the rich class, while you have more like I would say the House of M and even the House of M and a few other houses that they don't mention. You see them as more middle class, and you see the ones who don't have houses. They're considered the lower class, the poorer class, and the House of L, being the most prestigious and the eldest of all houses, it suffered a huge disintegrating mark because of singular circumstances in season one. Now, I don't want to spoil season one. I personally believe that anybody who is viewing this, watch the show, take the expectation that you believe of the Legends of Superman and what you heard about Jor-El and anything out of the comics, and kind of put that away a little bit. Just let the story tell you what it's trying to tell you, and that's what I do when I try to even watch these Marvel movies and even the DC properties. I'm trying to see what a lot of these directors and the writers are trying to tell me. What are they trying to tell me? And what David Goyer did is he took the lessons, I believe honestly he learned from Zack Snyder, and he built this show off of that premise. Because if you really think about it, this show is trying to tell you exactly why Jor-El sent his son Kal-El to Earth. He truly believed that the people of Earth have a much better offer to his son than his own people do, because they suffer from a lot of the bigotry and the resentment, and also the class elitists that they are. And that's something he didn't want his son to suffer from. He wanted his son to see people as equals. And as much as they write Seg-El as, and that's the gentleman at the top left. His name is Seg-El. That is the grandfather to Kal-El himself, Jor-El's father. And and even though he in a lot of ways imbue the heroism that makes Kal-El Kal-El. He does present a lot of the traditional Superman aspects. He does fight for the little man. He doesn't see he fights for injustice. But he is an elitist. He is an elitist, and and it's pretty subtle in some of the actions he does. But he is still a hero in his own right. Now he's not a military person per se, because the circumstances that happened to him and his family in season one presents itself there. Like if he is exactly where his father was and more in the scientific class, then he would be way more prestigious than he is in season one. However, he's a runabout. He is a street. He's a street kid and a street urchin. So he knows the streets. He understand the people know who he is. They know that he is Seg-El. But they can't call him Seg-El. He lost his family name. His house has been stricken from the council, and he has no he lost the prestige of his family's name. Um, so he's pretty much called Seg. Now, the woman in the top right, that's Jaina Zod. Um, you get to know who she is, and you kind of find out that they developed a relationship. Seg and Jaina developed a huge relationship. They basically known each other since they were kids, and they fell in love with each other. The gentleman at the very bottom, I don't know, I didn't get his name, but I will do a lot more on Krypton. I really like this show, but he's from the family, the House of Zem. Um, he is pro-military. He's very militant. However, he, in a way, if you really think about him, he's like a knight. He follows orders, but he can't sit idly by and see injustice, even though he is duty bound by the rules of Krypton or Kandor. And the House of Vex, they are the elitist of elitists. Now, the woman at the bottom right, I'm sorry, plays a very pivotal role. I do not want to spoil who she is and what she is in relation to Seg, but it's very, very, very important for people to want to watch this first season, because it sets up the building blocks of the rest of the rest of the lore that they're trying to build. But the first season was supposed to be the introduction to Adam Strange, and we get introduced to Adam Strange and the whole universe. I mean, I'm sorry, the whole planet itself. So we learn that Seg and everything takes place on Kandor. Now, if you know Superman lore and the lore of Supergirl, Kandor is supposed to be where Supergirl's from, and Zor-El. So um, this takes and you know that one of the things that happened is there's multiple things that happened to Kandor. One was they went through a civil war with the rest of Krypton. Another one was they joined up with Zod in his crusade to take over Kandor. I mean, take over the rest of Krypton, and that failed miserably. Other interpretations, the more common interpretation is that it got sucked up by Brainiac, and that's what caused the eradication of Krypton. The Because Kandor wasn't there, and because it got rooted out of the ground so deeply, it actually caused the core to start to implode on itself, and they only had an X amount of years. Um, but in this iteration, they went with the Brainiac situation. So Adam Strange comes from the future, and he tells Seg-El that you need to prepare, because he's trying to save a situation that's going on. Now, he tells him that Brainiac is coming, and he says that that's not supposed to happen, and that Kandor is one of the main reasons why um, that if they try to stop Brainiac, then or if they try to, I'm sorry, scratch that. Basically, the premise of the first season is that Brainiac is coming, and they have to and they're trying to stop Brainiac. Now you get introduced to another individual, and and you come to find out that that's General Zod. So you're like, what the heck? So General Zod is now in the past, meeting his mother, because that's who Jaina is, and the revelation of who the father is. Now I'm gonna leave it at that. But and they introduced Doomsday, and that shouldn't surprise anybody because we know that Doomsday was on Krypton sealed up. He was on Krypton sealed up. In other iterations, he was actually in space out of a pod, and it kept him in cryogenic stasis until it crashed, I believe, on the moon, and that's what set him off, and he came to Earth, and we know the death of Superman storyline. Um, so in this iteration, we're meeting Doomsday, who's sealed away, and we find out the what the heck is going on with um, Doomsday. So in the first season, we get a lot of information about the Speaker of Rao, and the Speaker of Rao is supposed to be their spiritual leader. So in a way, he's like their pope, and he speaks with the wisdom of Rao. And Brainiac starts using people as his emissaries, and they start to do a lot of chaos on the planet, and so he can be able to take down their defenses. And we he gives us an understanding of why he's coming after Krypton, but now I know a lot of people were wondering, like, okay, is this a future Brainiac? No, this Brainiac knows nothing of Superman or that Krypton's about to be destroyed or anything like that. He knows nothing about this. So basically, this was General Zod came back in time to try to stop Brainiac, and Adam Strange is trying to tell them that you can't trust Zod. He's a very dangerous individual. Jaina's believing that this is her son. Her son will never betray Krypton. But this is a General Zod that's fought Superman numerous times. This is a General Zod that, in a way, he does care and he does love Krypton, but he sees that Krypton will eventually implode on itself if they don't have the right leader in charge. And he believes he's the right leader in charge, even though he is so angry and so bitter. We don't know if he was confronted with people from Krypton and they told him to go f himself. We don't know anything about his past, in his virtual past, where if he was confronted with anything from Krypton. So we don't know any of that. So in this situation, we can only assume that we can go off of whatever information we have about this General Zod, that he's coming back into the past and try to save Krypton, but they're trying to figure out what is his real ulterior motive. So they finally were able to defeat Brainiac, and I know there's a lot of stuff that happened, and again, I'm trying my best not to really spoil too much. I'm sorry if this is gonna be a spoiler. I will put spoilers down below, into the title. Um, but this is generally what happened, and so when they finally defeat Brainiac, you come to find out that that Zod betrayed them. Of course he did, but Seg-El placed a trap, and he said that the only way to get rid of Brainiac was to put him into the Phantom Zone. So this is and also we get introduced to his grandfather Van-El, and that name should mean a lot to everybody, because if anybody remembers the Justice League Unlimited episode, the Man Who Has Everything, which is based on a comic book that happened years ago, where Superman was under the thrall of the Black Mercy from Mongol. He envisions himself with his wife, which is actually Lois Lane, and he has a son named Van-El. So he named his son after his great great grandfather, and that's who we meet. We meet Van-El, who is Seg's grandfather, and and so we meet Van-El, and we come to find out that Van-El is also stuck inside the Phantom Zone, and that's one of the introductions into the situation that we get to find out how he survived in the first episode. Because you're thinking, okay, he must be dead. No, he got out of it. So he's been in the Phantom Zone this whole time, and they give you a great understanding of the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone is a space-time dimension where you're outside of space and time. You can see the past, the present, the future. You just can't interact with it. So this is our understanding of how General Zod knew that he was going to go back into the past. He knew it. So did Van El. He knew of General Zod. He talked to him. They talked to each other, and they've been in there for a very very long time because time has no displacement there. So an hour here is probably like 1,000 years there, but you just don't age. So we don't know the time discrepancy. But at the very end, you come to find out that they send Brainiac into the Phantom Zone, but Brainiac snatches Seg and snatches him up into the into it. But when Van El grabs him and he tells him no, he won't let go. He says you've lost your way. You need to think of a better tomorrow, and that is something that is the instillment of hope, ladies and gentlemen. That was the thing that Seg was really learning throughout this whole season about hope, because he's a guy who pretty much doesn't give two cares about anything. But throughout this whole season, he was instilling hope, and not into himself, but in every single person that was getting that he was meeting up with, and also even into the House of Vex. The young lady in the bottom right, he instilled hope into her. He made her into a better person because she was ruthless. She was conniving. She was manipulative, and there was a lot going on with her. Now Seg gets pushed into the Phantom Zone, and the Phantom Zone closes, and you come to find out that General that Zod his first name is Drew, so they go right off the comics. His name is Drew Zod, DRU dash ZOD, Drew Zod, and he announced himself as the General of Kandor, and he gives a really great speech and talks about the fact that he's going to make Krypton and Kandor stronger than ever, and he wants them all unified, and if he meets any of his enemies, they will kneel before Zod. And you can see Jaina and my boy from in the House of Zem at the bottom left. They're both looking at each other like, this isn't right, but they have to listen to Zod. He's in control now. So they end the season very strong. In my personal opinion, it was very strong because we were wondering, are they going to get rid of Zod or what's going to happen? But we all had an understanding throughout this whole season that Zod was going to be a danger. He was going to be very, very dangerous. But because they introduced Brainiac and they introduced the Speaker of Rao, they introduced also Zod, and they introduced Doomsday, there was a lot that can happen. And at the very end, one of the special scenes is that Doomsday awakens out of his confines and literally breaks out. So you're going, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So now Doomsday is running rampant throughout all of Krypton. And that's how they end the season. I really, in my personal opinion, I really think this is a really great show. I think it had a stronger first season than Gotham, but the thing is that Gotham was on Fox, and they honestly could not touch a lot of the Batman lore, and that was because of the verbatim that of when that show came out by DC themselves in WB. They did not want a Batman show on network television. It's too big of a property, and they don't want to lose that type of fandom or money. It's understandable. It's a business sense. But from a fan sense, why the heck not give us a Batman show? It won't demean Batman's name. It will actually get it out there a lot more. And also, you could cast an actor that can really get people to go, hey, I like him as Batman. But hey, if you get a guy that's a stronger actor that gets a stronger script, you can have two Batmans, one on the silver screen and one on the gold screen. Now, Krypton did something very unique here. It's supposed to be 200 years over the destruction of Krypton. So we're getting 200 years before Krypton's destruction, but they're taking elements from Man of Steel, from the comics, and even from certain Elseworlds, and building a strong universe. Because I know how people feel. I do. I completely understand how people feel about it. They don't want them to tarnish Superman. They think the show is stupid. They think that that because we already know the destruction of Krypton, why can't we care about these characters? Well, the reason why they built this show this way is they want to have you instill why Superman is Superman, why Jor-El sent his son away, why he sent his son away, and why didn't he go with him? Those are the questions. Now those questions were answered in Man of Steel because he says that his mother and him were children of a failed society, tied to its fate. By if we went with you, we would instill in you those values again. And he didn't want that. He wanted his son to be freed of all of that. He wanted his son to make the decisions himself. And that's where, and me personally, that's where I think that we needed to understand, because they have a class system. They've always had a class system. They never had a true equal society. It was either you were a part of a prestigious class, or you were at the bottom of the barrel. And that's where I believe that Krypton did just that, because you saw in certain scenes where people were revering the speaker of Rao, but a child ran up there to give him a toy, and the guards just immediately put guns on her. Like, hey, what the heck? I'm like, I understand this is your spiritual leader, but it's a child, and he's around other people that are showing love towards the spiritual leader. So and until the situation that unfolded in that predicament, it shows to you how elitist and how people revere certain things in their societies. And it shows even in our culture why religion in some ways is important, and why in some ways it's one of the worst things. Now again, to me, I'm on the fence with it. I'm not saying that religion is bad, and I'm also not saying religion is good. I'm saying that religion serves a purpose, and for it to serve a purpose for a lot of people, it instills hope. It instills into them the values that's needed to garner for any futures that they have. It gives them a direction how to behave, and also how to react in certain situations. And in some ways, as we notice in a lot of our own culture, religion can actually be the downfall of societies. You can have their religion that leads into armies, crusades, destruction. People instead of taking those values and trying to build a stronger society, they use their values and pervert it in ways that doesn't help society or civilizations grow. And that's where I feel that Krypton was doing in season one. It's showing a lot of the problems, the deep problems that society has and had since their destruction, that Jor-El was really trying to tell his son, this is the reason why I sent you to Earth. And finally, I think they have a really good strong cast. Now, I'm gonna hit on one note here, and I know this is gonna be controversial. I know a lot of people are not gonna. There's some people that care, and there's some people that don't care. I'm on the side of I care, but in some ways I don't care. I don't like um, gender swapping, and I sure as hell don't like race swapping. But now the Zods, we've all known the Zods to be more of a light-skinned Caucasians. Um, in this iteration, they made them African Americans, but they're British. They have British accents, all of them. Jaina, her mother, you meet her mother, and even General Zod. They're black. Yes, General Zod is black, and I will talk about that in my image slideshow about why I think the actor who's playing Zod is doing a phenomenal job with this character. And I'll talk a little bit about Seg-El. Um, but this show in this last episode of their season has really sparked in me how to really want to talk about this show, because I didn't know how this season was going to end. I thought they shoved a lot in there, but they did a really great job of building it and also talking about a lot of the enemies in season two. Now I will talk a little bit about the season two in another video, but this one's about season one. But I think they did a really great job. I put my reserves about the show to the side, and also about the race casting, mainly because I want these actors to give me an opportunity to show that they can do these characters justice. And in my honest opinion, the actress that's playing as Jaina Zod, the actor that's playing as General Zod, my boy who's playing as Zem, as the house from the House of Zem. I'm sorry, I did not get his character's name. The actor that's playing as Seg-El, and even the actress that's playing from the House of Vex. These actors, and even the people, their supporting cast, these people are doing a phenomenal job with these characters. I am invested in all of them. I want to see them grow. I want to see them come to a turning point in their characters, and either they change or they stay the same. And I think that they did a really great job in the first season. They made a strong building blocks, and they made a really good strong foundation. I'm not saying it's concrete. I'm not saying it's very very strong. I'm saying that they built a strong a very good foundation where in the next seasons you can see their characters' growth. And I did a really good job here. And in season two, it just blew me away how well they did it. The actor that's playing as Adam Strange, I think that he could be a little bit stronger, but his character is almost a supporting character because because it's not truly about him. It's about the houses, and it's about the House of El. It's about the House of Zod. It's about the House of El and the House of Zod, and why they had conflicts, and what happened to these houses, and what happened to the society of Krypton. And I think that this show can last at least 5, 6, 7 seasons. I think it can have a very strong 5 seasons, but we have to see after this season they did a really great job. We have to see after season three. Are they going to relax? I don't think they should. I think they just keep pushing the envelope, and they took massive risks with this season. It was phenomenal. Season two was phenomenal. That's my personal opinion. I have a buddy of mine. He's a DC guy himself, and he didn't like this. He didn't like this. He doesn't like this show very much. When we set everything up, I will revisit this. This is one of my highly loved shows. He has his favorites, and I love and I agree with him on those. But there's some things I can relax off of, more in the storytelling point, and that's all that matters to me. What type of story are you telling me? Because I can forgive a gender swap and a race swap as long as the character is strong and the actor is doing a really great job. I don't want sloppy writing, because that means that you're doing a disservice to the character, and you're doing a disservice to the actor or actress in the role. But in this one, David Goyer is doing a great job, and I think that DC and WB leave him alone. Leave him alone on this show. Let him do his story. Let him tell it however he needs to tell it. I think that he has a plan of how he wants to unfold these seasons up until the eventuality where we get to maybe Jor-El as the older man, or we get Seg-El finally coming to terms with what he needs to do and moving forward, and we get the full forward up to Jor-El and the destruction of Krypton. So that's my take on the first season of Krypton. I think it's a really great show. Please just give it a chance. Put your expectations out the door, please. It's a strong, good show. It gives you a lot to offer, and also use it as a relevance about what's going on here in our own world. I can see what's going on in our own world. There is a lot of elitists out there. There's a lot of classism, and we as a society have to figure out a way to negate all that. And I think that if you watch this show and see how David Goyer is trying to tell you, you will pick up little things of what we could do as people to change it. So I'm gonna leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe down below, please. Let's talk about this. I still think this is one of the best shows. And if Sci-Fi screws this show up, I think that David Goyer can move this over to the streaming service. He will have a lot more. A lot more flexibility, because he's not restricted by a network, nor by MPAA rules. He could do whatever the heck he wants. He can make it MA. He can have nudity. He can have sex. He can have more violence. It doesn't matter. But I think that Sci-Fi is giving him a lot of breathing room, because it is a science fiction show. It's a science fiction drama action movie. So I mean, action show. So it's still in their purview. But yeah, comment down below. What do you think of season one? Do you think it's good? And if you think it's good, why? If you think it's crap, why? Please just leave the racism or the sexism out of the door. Please just keep it more confined to why do you think these actors and actresses are not portraying the character right, or why do you think that David Warrior is not doing the characters justice? Just keep it civil a little bit, please. But thanks. You guys have a great day. Bye.